Have you ever started watching a show, realized it's not good, but kept watching in hopes that it picks up? Yeah, I watched V-Wars on Netflix. All right, let's do this. A prehistoric virus is released from a frozen state and it infects humans, turning them into vampire-like creatures. Now, the premise is interesting. I mean, it is just like the show Fortitude, where that was a frozen virus that then thawed and infected the people around it. So it's not original, but at least it is an interesting premise. But even if you have a half-decent premise, that doesn't mean you're going to have a good show. Ian Somerhalder stars, and I guess Vampire Diaries wasn't enough of a blood-sucking show for him. He plays a scientist who is present when the virus is released and is apparently the only one qualified to figure out a cure. Adrian Holmes from Arrow is in this, and he plays Somerhalder's best friend. And he, as we find out in the first 20 minutes of episode 1, he becomes patient zero. He is infected with this virus and turns into a vampire-ish creature. Now, as can be expected, as the virus spreads, there become factions that just break up naturally. You have the uninfected humans, and you have the infected, which they then call themselves the Bloods. That's where the drama starts. The Bloods feed on the uninfected humans, which obviously leads to tension and some hurt feelings. And as things progress, the government gets involved. And at this point, it's kind of like the show is trying to have a cultural relevance or even be a social commentary, but it gets in its own way with mediocre writing and just uninteresting plots. The acting and situations are cheesy and predictable, and the dialogue is painful to sit through at points. Now, the actors are convincing in the delivery of their lines. By that, I mean that they believe what they're saying. I didn't believe it, and I just found it to be kind of just rote and quite unintelligent at parts. Parts of it I actually laughed out loud because it wasn't funny, but it was humorous because it was so terribly written. The transformation of the Bloods is done fairly well. I mean, they can transform at will so that they can look like uninfected humans and then go full-on rage, just vampire, and their teeth change and their face gets a little distorted. And the special effects in that, not terrible. They were halfway decent. Now, while the content of this is pretty much PG-13, they're trying to be edgy, so they throw in a whole lot of F-bombs, and then they add in some violence as well. The first season is 10 episodes, and they're each about an hour. But that is 10 hours of your life that you can spend watching something more entertaining and more meaningful, like paint drying, or grass growing, or even the logo on the screensaver of your 4K player as it bounces along from the edges of the screen, just waiting to hit that corner. You know you're rooting for it to hit that corner, just like the rest of us. I watch the crap so that you don't have to. There is sex but no nudity, profanity, and violence. I give season 1 of V-Wars 1.5 out of 5 couches. So do you have a favorite blood-sucking movie or show that you really enjoy? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me. Yeah, this show sucks like the vampires. That's actually what they should have said. It's just, hey, we suck. I mean, gosh, if I were a vampire company or a vacuum company, I would use the tagline, we suck more than anything.